What's going on, and welcome to Joe's Geek Show, the video series where we talk comics. And before we get started, if you're new and like to support the channel, you can do so by hitting that like button, clicking that subscribe button, and sharing. And with that, The Flash, issue 775. Written by Jeremy Adams with pencils by Fernando Pizarro, inks by Matt Ryan, colors by Jeremy Cox, and letters by Steve Wands. And this book begins with The Flash, Mr. Terrific, and Superman at the site where the glaive crashed into Central City as Superman tries to lift it, but with no success. As time goes on, Wally begins to notice that both Superman and Mr. Terrific are being exceedingly rude, which is out of character for them, but thinks little of it. Now heading home, only to have a similar encounter with both Linda and then with his co-workers back at the lab. It's while at the lab that his watch goes off, alerting him of danger, and Wally rushes off towards the site when he's hit by Mr. Terrific, who means to kill Wally in order to harness his energy, but Wally thinks quickly and manages to knock him out. It's then that he's faced with a barrage of villains all being drawn towards the glaive, forcing Wally to combat the various villains. Now noticing everyone is acting angry, he attempts to remove the glaive himself, which results in a miniature explosion. And with him now running out of options, Wally runs back to the lab and secures a bunch of crystalline shields and builds a dome around the glaive, which seems to work as people begin returning to normal and the villains depart, but its massive energy breaks through and suddenly the city is covered in a dark dome. The cosmic villain Starbreaker then descends and manages to pull the glaive despite Wally's best efforts to stop him. Suddenly the glaive begins to emit a dark shadow and Starbreaker becomes possessed with the entity Eclipso, who now controls his body. After this brief encounter with Wally, Eclipso decides to leave for now, but promises to return with vengeance as Wally jocks it up to a win when he's suddenly pulled through a portal by Dr. Fate, who tells Wally the fate of the universe is in his hands. And I'll say this was an interesting story. That definitely caught my attention from the jump. I mean, not just because of this glaive that we saw rocketing towards Earth over the past several issues, and start the story not just with them trying to retrieve the glaive, but also that Superman and Mr. Terrific were acting out of character, specifically that they were being kind of irate towards Wally. And then over the course of Wally's encounters, people were just getting more and more and more irate until it turned violent. And I think in terms of setup and progression, it's a pretty good hook. One thing that we got to see that I really liked was Wally being able to think on his feet so fast. Like dealing with Mr. Terrific, the villains, trying to shield the glaive, and whether it worked out or not, he was always making the effort. And it was also interesting seeing Eclipso again, because the last time that I recall, well, reading a story with him anyway, was that Eclipso Darkness Within event way back in the early 90s. Specifically that time that Eclipso possessed Wally, which you can check out in this video right up here. And it makes it more interesting now that he's in the body of Starbreaker, a cosmic vampire. I mean, we already saw in this story that attacks really only power the guy up, on top of his own. And throughout this book also had some interesting moments, some of which quite funny, particularly the scene where Rainbow Raider, he slides down the rainbow to try and slide behind the Flash in order to grab the glaive and ends up getting hit by a car. It was a pretty funny joke, and I definitely laughed. I also found the dialogue with Wally talking about how he's all zen and stuff to be really interesting, considering way back in the Mark Waid days of The Flash, he used to make fun of Max Mercury for being all zen. Oh, and then of course, the scene with Dr. Fate was a pretty good stinger for the next issue, especially with the text at the end saying the next issue is going to be the most crazy, out there, wild Flash experience we've ever read. As far as criticisms I could give this book, I think the only thing that really sticks out to me is that it took Wally a little too long to notice that everybody was just kind of pissed off at each other. I mean, with Superman and Mr. Terrific, that alone probably should have been enough to tip him off, but, you know, that was his first encounter with people getting angry. So, okay, I can kind of forgive that, but the minute he hits it up with Linda and then his co-workers, at that point, he should have started to question things. And when it comes to the art, Pizarro, Ryan, and Cox, they do a really good job together. I think the line art is really good and has some really good dynamic shots to it. Throw some inks and color on top, and you've got yourself a pretty good looking book. But overall, I'd say it's still a pretty fun story. I had a good time with it, and you know, Jeremy Adams, he has improved a lot, I think, since he first started. And for the most part, I think people will be entertained by this book. And with that, I'm going to go to The Flash, issue 775, a 7 out of 10. So The Flash, issue 775. What did you think about this book? If you've read it, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please leave your comments in the comment section below. And if you liked this video, I'd love it if you'd smash that like button, share it with some friends, subscribe if you're not subscribed already, and ring that notification bell for more comic book content. And if you're wondering what to watch next, consider one of these 2 videos. Alright, take care, have a great day, and as always, stay geeky.